Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. I'm Jesse Milestone, and this is Meant to Offend. So if you're offended, good. We haven't done Meant to Offend in a little while, so in case you've forgotten, Meant to Offend is where I try to piss off as many people from a certain group as humanly possible. You might be able to tell from the title that today we're going to piss off people who identify as alt-right. But don't worry, because on Wednesday, we're going to piss off people who identify as very liberal, far left, or SJW, because equality is what I'm all about. Weird, right? That I'm gonna go ahead and try to antagonize both groups, because obviously you can't be a member of one of them, of none of them. You have to be a member of one or the other. That's how today works. You can't not believe in the things of one group without obviously being part of the polar opposite group. Right? Right? Wrong! This is an issue for me. And this is why we're talking about this today, right? Because not just, like, the alt-right movement itself has actually quieted down a lot in the past, like, ever since, you know, Donald Trump was like, I don't think I like you guys. They were like, what? And they lost a lot of steam, so fuck you guys. But the problem is that the messages they brought forwards and the dialogue they brought into the public eye has persisted in a big way. And I have an issue with a lot of that dialogue and a lot of that ideology, and I have an issue with the fact that they're contributing to the polarization of today's political climate, right? Because you have the left, which we'll talk about, and they have very intolerant, toxic ideas about what they think is right, is morally correct, and that's, you know, and so now it's become a thing, and this is a lot because of what's being espoused on the other side, where if you don't believe in those ideologies, if you think something different from that, all of a sudden, oh, you're definitely alt-right now, and if you're alt-right, well, what are you? You're racist, you're bigoted, you're probably anti-Semitic, you're anti-feminist, you're, like, generally anti-women, women out of the kitchen, or my favorite, you're a white nationalist, because that's okay. It's okay to be a white nationalist. It doesn't mean you're racist if you're a white nationalist. Fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. Let's talk about that one for a second. Let's just stop using the term white nationalist, okay? Because that's the whole point of it. The whole point of the term, and the whole reason why they're like, oh, don't call us white supremacists, is because it sounds terrible, because it is terrible, but they're like, let's just call it something different. That's like Donald Trump being like, well, if we call lies alternative facts, it doesn't sound as bad. They're still fucking lies. It doesn't change what the thing is. If you're like, well, look, I don't believe that people of color are lesser than white people. I just believe that white people are better and should have everything to themselves, because duh. So white nationalism is this idea that whites should have their own nation, white is a race, and white is a culture now. That's a problem on so many levels. If you don't immediately understand why that's a problem, listen very carefully. White culture is bullshit. There is no such thing as white fucking culture. And you know what? The white nationalists largely reject Jewish people, many of whom are white, like myself. Look at me. I'm about as Aryan looking as they come, and I do not get to be part of the white nation because of my religion. That makes less than no sense, because there are tons of Jews that look and act just like me, of European descent. They fit every single criteria to be white nationalist, except that, well, obviously we're God's chosen people, so we're immediately better than them, and they hate people who are better than them because they think they're the best. So yeah, that's an issue for me right there, but that's there is no fucking such thing as white culture. That concept is bullshit. There's only culture that feels like yours or seems like yours. What if you actually look at white nationalists, first of all, they don't ever tell you what is white culture, what are white values. Well, white values and white culture are just that white people should remain a pure race because they're better than everybody else at the end. White culture is just the absence of any other non-white cultural influence. White culture is so diverse and multiplicitous as it is. There's so much to it. there's like every Europeans aren't even, uniform. Different countries have different regions of different countries have vastly different dialects, languages, foods they eat, traditions they uphold, primary religions. Like, there's so much that's different. Sorry, I'm on a swivelly chair, so if I keep like, nah, that's why. There's so much diversity within white culture as it is. What do you determine white culture? Like, okay, well, Irish eat, corned beef and cabbage. So is that part of white culture or is it not? Because Irish are too small of a diverse piece of that. Like, white culture, a lot of times they're talking about people in the South. Fucking people in the South don't eat, look, talk, anything the same way as fucking New Yorkers. Is southern, like, suburbs of Atlanta culture more white than New York City culture? How do you determine what white culture even fucking is? All it is xenophobia, basically. We just don't want any other cultural influences, because that's a terrible thing, right? Why would we have multiculturalism? Why would we share in the learning and appreciation of other people's traditions and beliefs from other places? That's like nothing about what America was founded on. Oh, you're a different religion than everyone else, and you were persecuted for being that different thing? Come to America, where our differences are celebrated and tolerated, as opposed to, like, hacked up into little bits and thrown away. I mean, that's so ridiculous to sit there and be like, return to white culture, when America was founded on the rejection of traditional European culture. And that's what you're arguing for white nationalism? I mean, do you hear yourselves? Are you fucking awake? Do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds? There is no standardized white culture. Oh, by the way, according to censuses in America, Arabs are white. So what? Is that suddenly part of white culture? No, because we're anti-Islam. So whatever we're anti doesn't get to be part of white culture. Whatever we hate is just immediately excluded arbitrarily from being part of white culture, because in your minds, white culture is white English-speaking European descent fucking culture. And where did the goddamn Europeans come from anyway? They emigrated from all over. I mean, I just still can't get over. Whose culture do you reject in favor of white culture, huh? California culture there's a fuck ton of white people in California doing white people shit all over the place, and it ain't like what white people in other parts of the country are doing. Which one of those is white fucking culture? Huh? It just, And if you're advocating for a white nation and, like, preserving that and all that stuff, then what you're advocating for is segregation, which is wrong. It's just fucking wrong, okay? Saying that any one person is better than another person is wrong. Saying that we're better on the basis of our skin color is wrong, and it's racist. There's just, like, did you not go to elementary school, for Christ's sakes? Did Martin Luther King Jr. die for nothing? It just doesn't, these are things that I thought people just knew, and they fucking don't. They're fucking, white culture is not a thing. Your personal culture is great. Celebrate your values. I have elements of my culture that I don't have when I'm in Los Angeles where I live, because they came from where I grew up and stuff, and I just bring that with me, and I'm having enough fucking self-esteem that I don't need somebody else externally to validate my goddamn culture in order to have it and feel it and share it. It's freaking ridiculous. So white culture, not a thing. Then let's talk about, I know you guys are all gonna get pissed off. White genocide, also not a thing, because white is not a race or culture. It's a race, but it's not a culture. You can't have a white genocide unless what you're saying is that all white people in the world are being killed. By the way, taking away white culture or muddying white culture or white people breeding with non-white people is not a genocide. Stop being so fucking sensitive. That's fucking insensitive to every people who has suffered a goddamn genocide, where their people have been butchered and killed and murdered in the hundreds of thousands simply because of their skin color, for no other reason. So fucking stop, because white genocide is not a goddamn thing. Yes, targeted groups of people can be killed, whatever, in certain places. It does not amount to a white goddamn genocide unless people of color all over the world just start killing all the white people for no reason. Then it's for stupid reasons or racist reasons. Then it's a white goddamn genocide. Until then, stop saying that. It's not a thing. Gah! Anyway, other things that piss me off about the alt-right. We have a lot of language that's come out of the alt-right movement that is incredibly reductive. This happens on both sides. We'll talk about the left on Wednesday. The reductive things from the right. And both sides, by the way, as I may have mentioned in other places, both the left right now and the right are the extremists on both sides are enemies of free speech. They are 100% enemies of free speech, because the left thinks that there's a million things you can't say because they're offensive, and everything that makes somebody sad is a hate crime now, and that's fucking bullshit. And the right thinks that they can say anything with impunity. And that's not freedom of speech. I have the right to express my opinion, so does everybody else. And if their opinion is different from mine, they have the right to argue with me about that and tell me they think I'm wrong. Which is like, I love when everyone gets upset at me in the comments, like, I can't believe you're so clearly not, open-minded. You tell everyone that their opinion's wrong if it's different from yours. I'm like, yeah, that's my right. I'm allowed to do that. It's also called fucking joking. But no one understands that. No one understands the difference between satire and being serious. No one understands the difference between satire and trolling. That's another topic. We'll get on that another time. God, I feel like I'm on speed today. No, I don't. I had espresso earlier. It was a bad idea. And that was like hours ago too, by the way. I just don't drink a lot of coffee. So I also don't need to drink coffee to be this way, in case you haven't realized that yet. I just have a lot of feelings about these subjects. Where was I? Oh, right, reductive language. So the things I hate that the right does, right, is because they're just as sensitive, by the way, as the SJWs, because the second anybody challenges their beliefs, they're like, oh my God, and they get super defensive about it. The second they're like, well, it sounds like you don't really like diversity. They're like, no, don't call me racist, God forbid, even though I kind of am racist. Like, come on. Anyway, sensitive, very sensitive. And they use this word. They're the ones who throw out the word. They've co-opted it because originally this was a left thing where they're like, that's a trigger for me. I'm triggered right now. Like, fuck off. But now the right is like, oh my God, anytime anybody displays emotion when they don't agree with what somebody says, they're like, oh my God, you're so triggered right now. And they just use that as a way to shut down and be like, I don't have to listen to you because you're triggered. I'm sorry. Expressing emotion is healthy. I don't know if you guys know this, but the fact that I yell so much about everything all the time means that I just like rest easy every night because it's all out. I'm not holding on to any of this. I'm like, blah, 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 and then it's gone. And then it's gone. I just jizz this force all over the place and then it's gone. All my force jizz is just gone. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. So it's stupid. It's fucking reductive when you say shit like that. And then the other thing, this word cuck that people throw around. Yeah, there's a time and a place for it. But I don't like it because again, it's another one seeks to reduce. It's gonna come away from the thing of like, oh, I call a man a cuck because he's so obviously pussy whipped by all women forever and he just walks around kissing their toes and women don't like that shit anyway. It's now become like, oh, any man who's not ultra macho, who doesn't subscribe to like their typical masculinity, and who doesn't think women belong in the kitchen is now a cuck. Like, no, there are definitely lots of, I don't know if you know this, but there's lots of different kinds of people. That's this thing about individuals, is that we are individual, and we have lots of different facets that make us great, including some men are more effeminate. Some men are less effeminate. Some men are big. Some men are small. Like, the amount of testosterone your body naturally produces, or like the tenor of your voice, does not make you a cuck or not. Like, stop that. Fucking have a conversation. That's another huge thing, is this insult and name calling and branding. Like, just talk to people. God, if someone says something that insults you or upsets you, fucking respond. Sure, get animated, get excited, get angry. You don't have to sit there and be like, well, you're a douchebag. You're a cock. You're a cunt because you say something that make me happy. Like, fuck you. Grow a pair. Deal with it. Fucking deal with it. That bothers me because they've introduced a lot of this divisive rhetoric. And that's a thing. Like, look, you don't, it's so hard to even articulate what I'm trying to say here because it's so absurd to me. It's like, just because I believe that minority groups have struggled and that, there is oppression that needs to be dealt with, that doesn't make me, and that's the branding thing again. Every time you disagree with them, they're like, well, you're an SJW, you're a libtard, you're a feminazi. Like, I'm sorry, sexism exists. That's a thing. You can't just say it's not. And that's what's happened, is they're like, well, anybody who says sexism exists is obviously a feminazi and a libtard. Like, I'm sorry, I experience sexism. Like, that all the fucking time. I'll tell you about it if you want. But, like, fucking Christ, it doesn't make me immediately part of some other movement because I don't agree with you, or I don't believe in you. Like, I can look at clear examples of racism in the world and be like, well, that was obviously racially motivated, and that doesn't make me like, oh my God, an Antifa warrior or whatever. Like, it just makes me a fucking aware human being. So people who are out there being like, well, sexism isn't a problem anymore. Fuck you, you're an idiot. People who are out there being like, well, racism isn't a problem anymore. Well, fuck you, you're a fucking moron. It is. It absolutely is an issue. It absolutely is a problem. It wouldn't exist in the dialogue if it wasn't. Is it better than it was 40 years ago? Yes. Making something better doesn't mean it's gone or going away. Should we take some more time to acknowledge that progress? Probably. Yeah, I think we spend too much time bitching and not acknowledging how far we've come, or getting so wrapped up in our own personal existences and the issues that affect us directly that we don't bother thinking about other people, you know, in other places who might be suffering more. But the flip of that, and you hear all this stupid shit too, which is like from the same people who are saying things like America first. These are the same people being like, oh, why do you care about women's rights in this country when they're women being killed in another country? Because I'm a fucking American. Do you want me to care about America first? Do you want me to care about Saudi Arabia first? Make up your fucking mind. You don't get it both goddamn ways. And that's like so much, I mean, the endless hypocrisy on both sides. Anybody with an extremist ideology is living with so much cognitive dissonance because nothing they say or believe is actually consistent with anything else they say or believe or reality. So that's an issue. Anyway, this is getting very, very long, but I think you probably got a gist of how I feel about things. Yes, extremism is wrong. The alt-right is just wrong. Alt-right, it leans into bigotry, leans into anti-Semitism, leans into fascism and hatred and bullshit, and it's not good. It's not a good thing. You can't justify it as a good thing. Like, stop. Don't call yourself alt-right if you're a reasonable human being that believes that everyone deserves, you know, equal opportunities. You know, there's an increasingly, ever increasing in volume, moderate base, central people who have different opinions, and that's the beautiful part, right? I am not one of those crazy leftists. I am not an alt-right person, but I don't necessarily have the same opinions as other people who consider themselves moderate or centrist. That's where the diversity is, the real diversity, and that's where the diverse opinions come in. So here's a challenge for you, right? Every time you get interested or invested in any sort of news story, any political, current event, whatever, world event, read at least one lengthy article, preferably 3, that is put out by the opposite perspective. Culture yourself. Educate yourself. Stop being so afraid of dissent and disagreement, right? I don't put these videos out because I'm looking for millions of people who agree with me. Yes, I'm very excited when there are a bunch of people who jump on and like, yes, someone's speaking my mind, finally. But I'm equally as pleased when people are like, oh my God, you're so offensive. Ah! I mean, it's called Meant to Offend, for Christ's sakes. So if you're offended, good. If not, you'll probably be offended on Wednesday. So tune back in for that. Follow me places. Tell me what you think. You're always welcome to do that. First person to call me a cuck gets a dislike on that comment, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. So don't. Or do. I don't care. I really don't care. Call me whatever you want. It's not that big of a deal to me. But yeah. As always, if you know somebody who needs to see this video, please post it everywhere that their social media is. Follow me on all the social media. I have like a zillion links below that you can check out, including my Patreon, which is a super fun place. I'm going to do a patrons only live stream coming up real soon. So if you want to be part of that and make sure I actually hear your comments, because last time we did a live stream, there was like 100 people at once. But that's going to happen again soon too. So just come back on Wednesday to be offended again. And, oh, this video is for Leroic. I forgot that part. This video is for Leroic, one of my patrons. So if you want to be able to suggest videos that I will definitely do, you can sign up on my Patreon account as well. Leroic is awesome. He was like, yell about the alt-right. And I was like, okay, I don't need much prompting to do that. Pretty much anybody who doesn't consider themselves alt-right loves yelling about the alt-right. Then we'll yell about the other side later, and I'm gonna stop now because this is getting long. All right, bye.